A survey has shown that self-generated sexualized images remain prominent in children's exposure to sexualized media. 31% of respondents reported having been sent or shown sexually explicit images involving the sender, and girls and young women were more likely to have been sent or shown self generated content. That's 38% of them, much more than the boys, where the boys were at 25%. Talk a little about the work that I do as a quite specialized sex, porn, love addiction therapist. And by the way, each of those terms, sex addiction, porn addiction, love addiction, I separate them out because they are quite different and distinct things. Sex is different to porn addiction. Love addiction is different to sex and porn addiction. I might say a little bit more later on, but just be aware they are different things. But I also want you to hear porn is not about porn. Sex is not about sex. It's what others might be noticing, but at the crux of it, they are ways of self-soothing and managing emotions. It appears to be about porn. It appears to be about sex. That's how it started. But after a while, the repeated practicing of the behaviors, the go-to, this is my hamster wheel, which the individual gets onto and then can't get off, they've created what I call a neural pathway. When I feel, this is what I go and do. When I feel, I do. When I feel, I do. It almost even becomes the nightcap. Why? Because the physiology of their body has become dependent on some really potent chemicals. I'll come back to that in a minute. I'll also introduce you to my little person. This is a picture, an image of a little baby. And I'll go on to explain how, when we are first born, there's very little data on this brain. But as we grow up, the little child, there are different assaults that take place. But the first time we experience something, that becomes the template that gets set up on the brain. And the children and porn, first accessing porn images, are setting up a template on the brain. And the brain, when it's coming across the images, is actually experiencing a naughty but nice. And the nice, where the heart is pumping, is actually pumping some very potent chemicals called dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, neuroleptin. Those chemicals are as potent as illegal drugs. MRI scan has proven that to be the case. There are 3 ways in which porn addiction gets set up. One of them is opportunity, too early in a person's life. The brain is not ready. It's age inappropriate images that get set up as templates on the brain. The second one is trauma. The brain wanting to recalibrate and find homeostasis, as we call it, from the trauma, may come across the sexually explicit images, and for a period of time, it escapes from the pain, anxiety, stress of the trauma. It's a way of escape. The last one is what we call insecure attachment. That needs a bit of explaining, but what we do know is that when there is a disruption in the bonding between the child and the key parental figures, that lack of sufficient bonding creates a void in the child. Now, it really needs a lot more explaining. I have an image which is rather stark, but I think I should show it to you. This is probably the best image to explain insecure attachment and what happens. It's when, at a very young age, the child is born. There isn't a good enough bonding between the child and key parental figures. It's not a criticism of parents. Parents typically seek to be the best that they can be, but when we are busy, and the child's brain needs connection and life done in a particular way, but it is just disrupted, like a parent working long hours and away, and the child learning to look after themselves, particularly after school. When work not only takes the parent away overnight, but also maybe their emotional lack of availability for the child, even when the parental figure is at home, and the child's brain will detect it. And what happens is a void gets set up in the child as they grow and develop, and they learn things like being independent and learning not to rely on other people. But as human beings, we were designed to be in relationship with others. And so that keeping others at arm's length is all about trying to avoid giving your heart away, because if you give your heart away to trust someone, they might not hold your heart as well. And the brain, of course, as the young child, is experiencing something from early childhood with parents that says, it hurt me when I didn't feel connection, and so I learned to move away, to separate emotionally. So I'm not going to give my heart to others. And this is relevant because it's going to work itself out in how the child goes on to do their adult relationship. You'll need to contact me really to get a lot more information about this thing called insecure attachment and how it starts to show itself in adulthood. And that's really what love addiction is about, because in adulthood, what the adult that was the child with insecure attachment is actually trying to do is interact with other people. So those with love addiction tend to be doing sexualized activities that involve interaction with others. So they may be on a web chat, they may be dating sites, even looking at images on social media and sending messages. They may be sexting, because interaction with other people gives a sense of being accepted, of being wanted. Even paying a prostitute gives a temporary sense of filling some of that void in the adult, because they're getting attention.